Hello and a very warm welcome from my side, from the BAV Institute. My name is Bernd Fellenberg and I want to give you a short presentation about the topic cleaning and disinfection validation in the cosmetic industry. So let's start with the presentation. I hope you can all see the slides. So I'm food chemist, part of the BAV Institute. You can see our institute on the right-hand side. We are a microbiological lab. At the moment, some 100 to 150 employees located in Offenburg. It's a city in the southwest part of Germany, near to the French border. And we are doing microbiological analysis not only on the cosmetics, but also on pharma, food, feed, and drinking water. We are part of a bigger lab group. You can see it on the right-hand side in the bottom. The lab group is called Tentamus. It's an international lab group with, at the moment, about 80 laboratories from the US up to India. So we are a global network of highly specialized laboratories doing analysis on different kind of products. So today I want to speak about the cleaning and disinfection validation in the cosmetic industry. It's, as I already told, a 20-minute presentation. So for sure, we will not, within these 20 minutes, I will give you some ideas about this topic. But it's quite a short time, so for sure you can ask me afterwards questions about this. Write me an email, give me a call, and you will find all the contact details at the end, and also on our website. So why this cleaning and disinfection validation important for the cosmetic industry? So in a first approach, if you think of cleaning, for example, at home, it seems quite easy, but for sure for the industry, it's more complex. And if you do have, let's say, errors in the cleaning and disinfection, though these might have very severe effects. For example, recalls of products, contamination of products connected to high costs. So it's a correct cleaning and disinfection of your facilities when you're producing cosmetics. It's a quite important and, let's say, a crucial step in producing safe cosmetic products. So at the moment, when we are talking about cleaning and disinfection, situation right now is, let's say, different than 10, 20, 30 years ago, due to the fact that at the moment we do have less preserving agents that we did have in the past. So if you do think of formaldehyde releases that we did have in the last 10 or 20 years. So the preserving agents are getting less and they're getting milder. The same is for the substance that we do use for cleaning and disinfection in the industry. Although these substances are getting less and they are also getting more mild. That means that it's good for the microorganisms. So if we do use less substances and substances that are milder, the microorganisms can grow much more easily and also can adapt to the new environments. And this can lead to adaptation processes and also to the so-called Phoenix effect. So microorganisms that do show this Phoenix effect, I give you just two examples. One of these is, maybe you heard of them, it's Burkholderia cepacia. And the other one is Pluralibacter gergoviae. Maybe the second one is more in mind because 2-3 years ago, there was a publication of a German institute of the BFR that clearly states that this Pluralibacter gergoviae shouldn't be present in cosmetic products. So at the moment, there's a focus on these Pluralibacter, but there are a lot of other bacteria that might cause problems and that do show this so-called Phoenix effect. That does mean that these microorganisms are absent for a certain time, and after weeks or months after they have adapted to the cleaning and disinfection agents, and also to some preservative agents. These microorganisms are able to grow again after a quite long time, and this is called a phoenix effect. And so after, let's say, some weeks of months of silence, you get real big problems because these microorganisms are able to adapt to your environment in your industry. It's also relevant for food, but just to give an idea, for example, for listeria. But that's not topic here in this presentation. So it's important, and what might happen. So you can see here one slide from the Safety Gate, the European portal for non-safe non-food products. And this here is a recall of a cosmetic product for childs, and you can see it in the bottom. It's a recall because this product contains an excessive amount of aerobic mesophilic bacteria. So it's a quite high amount, and the Burkholderia cepacia was found in these products. And mainly this contamination, for sure it can be, for example, that you do use raw material that is contaminated, but quite often it's due to the fact that you do have, let's say, spots in your industry, in your plant, that can't be cleaned and disinfected correctly. And though there might be growth of microorganisms in your system, and this can lead to these kind of recalls. And so this is just one example to show you that the correct cleaning and disinfection and the validation of these processes is very important in your industry when you're producing cosmetic products. We are also talking about biofilms, buildings. So this is, let's say, an agglomeration of a microorganism that can form these biofilms. As a cause, it's quite often a stagnant source for these biofilms. It's quite often stagnant water, or also so-called blind spot. So that means spots, areas where you aren't able to reach with your cleaning and disinfection products. So this biofilm building is, if you do have these biofilms in your plants, in your factory, it's very difficult to get rid of them, because they are able to survive. These microorganisms are able to survive in these biofilms. Also, if they don't have a lot of, let's say, sources from extern, so it's very difficult to get rid of them. And sometimes the only, let's say, solution is to construct the plant new, or to build a new factory if it is very difficult. So apart from the fact that the European cosmetic regulation demands safe products, and you're only able to produce safe and harmless products if you do use adequate cleaning and disinfection in your process. There are also other standards like the IFS HPC that states that cleaning and disinfection schedules must be available and implemented. The IFS HPC is mainly a standard for the retailers, so there might be the request from your retailers that you do have to fulfill the standard. And when you take a look at this, you have to show that the effectiveness and safety of your cleaning and disinfections, and you also have to verify, validate, and document the whole process. So the requirements from the IFS HPC are listed there. So apart from clear responsibilities, you do have to fix all the products that you do use, instruction manuals. You have to be clear what kind of areas are affected, which have to be cleaned and sanitized. You have to fix the frequency of the cleaning and disinfections, and you also have to do the documentation. So that's in brief what the IFS HPC requires. And in addition, as you all know, the ISO 22716, the cosmetic GMP, directly connected to the European cosmetic law. There's also a small part talking about cleaning and sanitization. And also here it's stated that the sanitizing agent that are used should be specified and they should be effective. So it's nothing said about, let's say, documentation and all the stuff listed in the IFS HPC, but in the end, to show that your processes are effective, it's clear that you do also have to make a validation, because otherwise you can't be sure that your processes are effective. In the next two slides, just want to show you the difference between cleaning and disinfection. So cleaning means the removal of pollutants and residues. So the success of a cleaning process is optical cleanness. In difference, disinfection means the reduction of microorganisms, that means bacteria, molds, and spores. And so the disinfection is a biological cleanness, so the clear reduction of microorganisms. So you have to get the idea of the difference between cleaning, mainly as a first step, and afterwards the disinfection. So it's two different things. So just one slide to give you an idea how difficult the cleaning and disinfection might be. So on this picture you can see a lot of tubes, hoses, and raw materials and equipment. So as you take a look at this picture, it's sure that it's not as easy to get clean, to clean this kind of process. To not have, let's say, blind spot, stagnant water anywhere, because these blind spots and stagnant water, things like that, or also residues, it's always a possible source of a contamination. And if you do have the contamination within your system, it's very, very difficult to get rid of them. So you have to be sure that your cleaning and disinfection agent and your procedure and your process is able to reduce or to clean your equipment. So in the second part, I give you, let's say, the some steps how you can make these cleaning and disinfection process, and also the validation. So in the first step, we call it the basis. So you have to be sure what kind of production plants are affected. What water systems do we use, storage facilities, so everything that can contribute to a possible contamination, including sometimes it's not the main focus, but it's very important to include also all the additional equipment like tubing, trowels, buckets, and everything, because although this equipment can be a very crucial part when talking about hygiene and microbiology. In a second step, you're creating a validation plan. So it's a detailed description, and you have to define goals for each relevant step. And as I told you, the difference that we've seen before between cleaning, so no visible impurity, and the disinfection, so the clear reduction of number of microorganisms. This all has to be present in the validation plan. And as measurement, you can do different things. For example, an optical inspection, so to take a look if a certain surface, for example, is clean or not. You can measure the different residues, for example, in the washing water, but also on the surfaces that are in direct contact with your products. For example, allergen that have been present in a product before. And the question is this allergen still present in the products that have produced afterwards? Or, for example, also cleaning and sanitizing agent residues that might be still present in the product. Last but not least, the measurement of microbiology. So the measurement of CFU, colony forming units, for example, in washing water, in products, but also on your surfaces. You have to clearly define the position of the measurements, the method that you do use. It's not only the description of the method, but it's quite crucial that the methods are suitable for the detection of possible contamination. So you have to be sure that your method that you do use work proper. You have to set thresholds, and in case if the specification is not fulfilled, you have to take actions. So this is just one idea how this plan might look like. So you have to define the area. You have to make cleaning specification described in SOPs, talking about the amount of the amount of material that you have that you need. Then fixing the parameters. You have to describe the cleaning and sanitation agent that you do use in the proper concentration. Then you have to get an idea what is the worst case pre-product that I might have. So it's like worst case construction, and afterwards you do the sampling. And for all the areas that might affect the microbiological quality, the hygiene of your products, you have to define these kind of plans, including all the SOPs for the specific cleaning specification. So this is a very important step. The next one is implementing the validation. So be on site if the validation is done the first or second time, and really get sure that the operating procedures are realized. And if, for example, the procedure is too complicated for your employees or whatever, make sure that these procedures are realized, and if necessary, customize your documents, make the documents more detailed or whatever. And afterwards is the sampling and the measurement that for sure has to be done proper and in a good manner. And afterwards is the fourth step, the validation report. So sum up everything and do evaluation. So talking about when has the validation has been done, in what kind of facilities, which raw materials have been taken, what parameters have been examined, the measurements, the results, and for sure the conclusion. In the conclusion, you have to make sure that everything matches the specification, and if not, so you have to make sure, or you have to make revalidation. You have to take actions, and let's say do the validation again in a certain area or for a certain product or whatever. So this is quite important. If you do not fulfill the specification, so make changes, do it again, and take a look if it is fulfilled after a second or a third validation. So this is quite important, and for sure it has to be done quite near to the first validation. And the next step is the revalidation. So at regular time intervals, you have to do a revalidation. So make a revalidation of your whole process. And for sure, you have to do this revalidation if you do make changes. For example, if you do if you do produce new products, new product categories, if you, for example, get new equipments, then you have to do maybe not the whole validation, but at least part of the validation again. For example, to validate if a new equipment is really suitable for your production, and if you are able to clean this new equipment properly. Last but not least, the documentation. Mostly not paper-based, but at least you have to do the documentation because you know what's not written hasn't been done. So in the end, it's quite an important step. So 20 minutes are over. I thank you for your attention. You can see my contact details below. So in case you want to implement a new cleaning and disinfection validation process, or in case you do have questions about the microbiological quality, about hygiene topics in your cosmetic industry, feel free to give me a call, to write me an email or whatever. I will be very, very, very glad to get news from you. And anyway, thanks again, and feel free to contact me if you do have questions.